Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, good to have you back on.
Happy to be here.
Well, last week was good for Wall Street, even though Friday the Dow and the S&P were down. A lot of data on the economy and hopes for good earnings from the megacap companies. Tell us about that and what do you see happening in the markets from here?
Okay, well, as you said, Dow and S&P was down on Friday. NASDAQ was slightly up. The market generally seems to be waiting. As you just alluded to a little bit, it's the earnings season, and this week will be the heaviest for earnings report coming out from major companies. So I think investors are waiting to see what the earnings report are going to say. Also, in general, there's concern about whether the stock market is in a bubble. There's a wide disagreement on whether stocks are in a bubble or not, so the markets right now seems to be nervous. And then the coronavirus, even though the new Biden administration is promising to go all in on additional vaccinations, there is concern that it is running out of supply, and for some states, the distribution of vaccine is falling behind demand. And Biden's stimulus measure, there's now beginning to be stronger opposition in the Senate by Republicans, believing that the amount is too high and the checks should go to just selected people, not to everybody. So that is turning into a political battle. So all those factors seems to be making the U.S. market wait and see. For the European and Asian market, they are following similar trends. They've fallen in the latter part of last week, the FTSE, DAX, CAC, DK, Shanghai, and Hang Seng, though the Asian stocks, when they open for trading today, they seem to be rising and doing fairly well. But for all these European and Asian markets, common factors seems to be in play. Concerns about coronavirus in their own respective regions and concerns about the U.S. stimulus.
Well, a big gain today here in Korea on the KOSPI and the KOSDAQ. What's happening here in the local markets?
Okay, well, KOSPI hit a record closing high. It closed over 3,200 for the first time. It went up 2.18% to 3,208.99. This is the first time in a couple of weeks that KOSPI has returned to setting record closing highs. It was due to institutions and foreigners who bought 360 billion won and 237 billion won's worth of stocks respectively. Individuals sold 567 billion won of stock today. Now, the Korean exchange figures do show that the gains in the value of these stocks tend to be unbalanced. That is, some stocks are going up very much, other stocks are not going up very much at all. Samsung and Hynix now accounts for about 30% of the KOSPI market, and if you take the top 10 stocks, they take about 49% of the market. That's up from 30% range, which was the normal, up to about 2019. KOSDAQ went up 1.97% to 999.30. Again, it was the institutions and foreigners who bought and individuals sold.
It's the start of a new week, Professor. The IMF will be releasing a revision to its forecast for the global economy. The Bank of Korea announcing the country's real GDP for the fourth quarter and for last year. What's on your radar in the days ahead?
Okay, well, the most important figure will be that GDP figure, not only for 2020 in general, but the fourth quarter. We'll have to see whether Korea's growth was negative 1.1% as estimated, or whether we did slightly better or worse. There are a couple of other interesting numbers for Korea. January consumer sentiment and business sentiment index is out this week as well, and December and 2020 industrial activities trend figures will be out. International statistics-wise, there will be first U.S. Fed FOMC meeting at the end of the week. It will be the first under President Biden. The new Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, said that she would like a very large fiscal stimulus policy, and the question will be, will the Fed agree or not? They'll likely agree. Fed has been wanting a large fiscal stimulus. But still, it'll be nice to hear them in person because, well, as I just said before, Republicans are now gathering forces to reduce the size of the stimulus. And then the U.S. quarterly GDP for the fourth quarter will be out as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. economy did in the last quarter.
It certainly will. We'll have to catch up later in the week and talk about that. Thanks so much for sharing your insights with us today, Professor.
Thank you.